Well, good morning. My name is Samantha Mirabal. I'm with the Melco's application team. And today we're going to be doing a little project in the hoop stuff. So if you've never done in the hoop, it's a lot of fun. It's basically a technique where you build everything that you're going to do directly in your hoop. So the entire product, so the front and the back, everything is built completely. So let me go to this. All right. So it's, the season for Easter, so I've got these little key fobs that we're going to make. You can see the picture of them. I have the art that hopefully they'll link for you in the comments if you want to play with them. So hopefully they'll be there for you to be able to try them later. But basically I'm going to try to go through the entire project from creating your own. So these, while you have art, that's cute, but most likely you'd want to do your own project. So create your own little designs or your own little things that you put on key fobs. So some of the supplies we end up needing would be some way to secure your your fob, so that you can clip it around something. So I use cam snaps size 20 because I have thousands of them and lots of colors, and I've got a press for it. They have hand presses as well as tabletop presses. It's all the same. You can also get metal snaps, or even if you don't want to actually have it where it can come undone, you can take it and use like a grommet where you actually press in a little loop. That way you can thread your split ring, which are these guys right here, through it. As far as the fabric that you're going to sew on, you can use anything. I like it to be a little bit heavier so it's got some body to it. So marine vinyl is really nice. It cleans up well, it holds nicely. It's got a fabric backing to it. You can find them at Joann's for a lot, or online for a lot cheaper. It's the other thing that I did not put on here that is always good. You notice mine have hardly any flop to them at all. They're pretty rigid. And I do that by using a product called buckram. So if you've ever looked in the inside of a structured hat and see that kind of mesh stuff on the back, that is buckram. Okay, you can find it at Joann's, or I buy it from some textile shops. I mean, it's everywhere. Crinoline is another version of it. I find it tends to be a little bit softer, but you get the same net effect. Okay, I'm good. All right. So as far as stabilizers go, you'll see in my pictures that I've got a clear plastic that I'm using. I buy it from Home Depot. You can use a crisp tearaway. You can use cut and wash like Vilene or Badge Master. Pretty much a heavy cutaway, any stabilizer you want. It really depends on the density of your design. So if you're going to put something super dense in there, you're going to want more stabilizer to hold the stitches so that you don't end up distorting everything. So once you've got your supplies, now we've got to think about how do we actually create this thing. Okay, so I've got pictures to show it, but actually I'm going to skip this. We can come back to it. So first off, well, no, I'm going to talk about it. Sorry. So as we're going through and building this, basically we're going to create the outline and sew just the top down onto our stabilizer. Okay, so let me go to these other pictures. All right, so this is kind of step one. We're going to lay the material on top of our hoop, and this is the plastic I was talking about. And then you sew the outline, and that holds the vinyl in place so that any decorations you can do, if you're going to do monograms or names or anything else, will be secured here. Okay, so it'll be held down. Then you go through and do whatever decorations you're going to do. Okay, you can also see in the background here, this is the buckram I was talking about. I've got a large piece sticking out, so that's under here. But you do any decorations. So in this case, it's just a little basketball egg. Then you actually do an applique stop, pull the hoop off and turn it over. So this is the back of the hoop, at which point we're going to take a piece of vinyl and pin it. Now, this is going to go between the arm of the machine and the hoop. So you want to make sure the pretty side is facing you when the hoop is upside down. Pin it so that the pins aren't going to get sewn through. Okay, so you want to pin it out here, far away from where your actual sewing is going to be, so you don't end up sewing through needles. If you sew through needles, you'll break a needle. So that's about all that'll happen, but it's obnoxious. So you pin these in place. pin the vinyl, put your hoop back on, and have it run the last step, at which point it runs the outline again. See, so now that you get a nice finished back to it. I didn't clean this up, I just pulled it off and took a picture of it. So at this point, all you would do is cut it out and install whatever snaps you have, grommets and whatnot. All right, so is there any questions on just the basic process before? Okay, doesn't look like it. Hi Judy and Barbie. Okay, so let's go and look at how we're going to actually digitize this of creating our own. How do I get out of here? There we go. All right, so in the artwork, I did go ahead and put this little, it's called Key Fob strap. It's just a shape that I find works pretty well with these size 20 snaps. So it's where the snap will fit in this area nicely, and it'll give you a shape that when you fold it over, gives you enough room to be able to put, you know, a hook or a split ring or something like that. All right, so you have this that you can use rather than creating your own geometry. And then I also have in there an egg shape. Okay, so this could be whatever design you have. So if you've got a different shape you want to use, whether it's a name or anything else, but basically what we need to do is combine these so that we can create our key fob shape. So to do that, I'm going to take my egg and I'm going to go insert the strap. Okay, so now I've got two vectors in there. I've got my strap and my egg, and all I want to do is place it so that these are overlapping. All right, so I've got it overlapping about here. I'm going to select everything and center it up. Okay, so when you select everything, you get these little alignment. So I'm going to center vertically, that way I don't have to worry about my eyes doing it crooked. And then the last thing I want to do is combine this, but before combining it, I'm going to copy and paste the egg, and you'll see why in a little bit. So now I've got the egg. All right, so I select both of those, and then over here there's combine element. You can also go right click, operations, combine element. It does the same thing. All right, so now I've got my key fob shape. Like I said, this could be anything you want. And then I've got my egg. So at this point, now it's time to digitize it. So if you remember, our first step was going to be to hold that fabric down. Okay, so just as a reminder, that's going to be this right here. We're going to lay the vinyl down and sew an outline. All right, so how do we digitize that? That's going to be a walk input method. All right, so you can do it a few ways. You can come over here, and if you have some of the lower levels, you have to trace it. So we'll do a select walk. A walk normal is fine. It's just a tack down, so, and you can trace this. So left click are straight points. Your right clicks are curves. All right, so I could zoom in and get a better trace. If you want your line to go perfectly vertical, I can hold my alternate key down and pull. That will keep it straight. All right, and now I can right click around again, my egg shape. And all this is doing is creating my outline, my placement stitch, a running stitch. Okay. There's a way faster way to do this, but I figured I'd do both so you can see both. So we're clicking around, just, you know, right click around until you get to the end of your shape. And when we get here, I'm going to hit enter to close the shape. All right, so if I turn all this off, you'll see now I've got, oops, escape. All right, now I have that. So let's do that another way. That's a little bit faster. If I select the vector, all right, over here you've got a box that's change element from one type to another. So if I click on that, there is a hotkey that I'll tell you in a moment, but this lets you think about it. So I want to, right now I have selected a vector and it shows me that. From vector fill to, I want it to go to a walk normal. And I want to add it. I don't want to get rid of it. All right, so now that shape we already had created, I've got a walk normal. All right, so that's our first step. All right, I'm going to delete the one I traced just because. All right, so our second step is going to be to do any decoration on there. So this is the art only. All right, so this, you create whatever you want for your artwork. I drew this out ahead of time, so I've got it all as vectors so that we have something to trace. But when you're planning out your work, one thing to keep in mind is your pathing aspect of it. So we've got all of this black stuff here is touching. So as we go through it, think about how you're going to connect everything to avoid trims, because it'll keep your machine running at a higher speed longer, and you'll get a more efficient, faster sew out. So real quick, just because the hotkey to create that same walk normal is select the vector, hold the shift key, and click on the walk input, and that will create that same thing that we did by using the change element from one type to another. So since all this black stuff's touching, how can we get around it and avoid trims entirely? Well, let's look at it up here. So view full screen. So if I start at the top of this guy, I can do a single line center down here. So just do that as a satin stitch, single line center. I can do a running stitch across, do another single line center up, do a walk stitch down. All these walk stitches that we're doing are just to get us from one spot to another. Do another satin stitch, walk up, and a satin across. Okay, so your running stitches are this one, which are the your walk input. Our satin lines are these right here, the single line centers, that icon. All right, so let's go do that. All right, so I'm going to start with my single line center, and I'm going to start here. All right, and I'm just going to eyeball it because it's for fun. I'm not going to worry about it being exact, but all right. So I've got that first one. Hit enter to let it know there's the end of the shape. The default width is 20. I'm just going to accept the default width and hit enter. And you can see there's that first line. I'm going to go do my walk stitch starting at the propeller. That's how I'm going to avoid that trim. So I'm going to start here, walk down, and now do another walk input up. Sorry, not a walk input, single line center up. Okay, we're going to come across to there. Enter to end that line, enter to accept the default width, switch over to a walk. That one I went a little bit long. Now, if you click wrong, if you don't remember how to get rid of those, it's backspace. Don't hit escape, you'll have to redo it all, or at least this line. But if you hit backspace, it'll delete the points until you get to the next spot, until you get to where you are to continue clicking on your way. All right, so I'm going to right click around here, left click at the end, hit enter. Last running stitch up, so I do another walk normal just to get me to my next spot and avoid a trim, and do a walk input or a single line center across, enter, enter, and then the very last thing is this border here. Okay, so we can do that a few ways. I'm going to do it quick. I've got this vector here that's the size of the egg. That's why earlier I said copy and paste it, so we still have that. So when you select it, I can again say change element from one type to another, tell it to be a single line center, and this time I add it. And I'm going to merge that into the color above it. The last thing I need to do to make sure I don't have a trim is make sure my start and stop are where the propeller is. So while that element is selected, select the start and stop, click there. All right. A few things. This border, we probably want that a little thicker, so why don't I make that, increase the width right here of that one to, let's say, isn't it? So 30. There we go. Okay. So let's see in 3D what we got. Now, once you've done something and you think you have no trims, it's always a good idea to check your work. And you do that by updating your trims here. So we're diligent, paid attention to our starts and stops. Hey, no trims appeared, so that's good. All right, so then that's our first step, to place the fabric down, do our decoration. Our last step is going to be to secure that backing. So after we pin the vinyl. So I'm just going to copy this first step, so copy by Control-C, and right after this, paste it. And the walk normal is one piece of thread, it's kind of thin, but this one's going to actually finish up the product. So I want to change this to a bean stitch, and I like a little bit longer, so a bean of 3, that'll work. Okay, so there you have your file. It's 3 color changes, and you'll be able to create this from it. All right, so let's see, how do we set up the machine to actually run this. All right, so here's how we set up the machine. Yeah, full screen. When you look, after you load the design, remember it's a 3-color design we just created. Our first is our placement. So I did that in color orange because I'm doing it on orange marine vinyl and I didn't really want to see it. So I just secured that with orange. Then I click the applique button. That puts the word applique there. What that will do is stop the machine. The hoop will come out from under the needle case and it will wait for your input. Now, do I need to do that? No, because I'm not doing anything. I'm going straight into the decoration. So this applique wasn't strictly needed, but if you want to trim up fabric or do anything ahead of time, you know, putting an applique there doesn't hurt, but for this design it's not needed. So that one didn't have to be there. So to go color 4, which is my orange for the vinyl, then it does all the lines on here, all the design work. So that's 15, that's my black. And then this time we do need the applique. So this applique is necessary because I've got to pull the hoop off the machine, flip it over, pin my vinyl on, put it all back on, hit start. The hoop will pull back under the needle case. After it pulls under, it will do that final bean stitch. Okay, so after you've got that done, you run it. And, you know, there's your first stitch, your color 2, take it off, pin your vinyl, run color 3, then finish it up. Okay, so they're really easy. Oops, I didn't mean to close it. Oh well. So they're pretty easy to do. All right, so any questions before I move along? Let's see. Hi, Nadia. All right, I don't see any questions. So let's move. Let's go do something a little more interesting. Okay, so this was pretty simple just to show you how to create it. So I'm going to close that. Now, I've got a few other designs here. For instance, this one, the decorative. So not only can we do key fobs, but see these sorts of stitches? They're a lot of fun. So why don't we see about creating something like this? Okay, so again, you just have to decide what it is you want to do. All right, I'm still staying with a key fob in that general shape. I drew these, if that's how I'm going to break it up. So how do we go through this to create it? Well, step 1 is still going to be place my vinyl. So I'm going to select the outer shape, either trace it if you can't select it. I'm going to tell it to be a walk normal and add. All right, so there's my placement to hold the vinyl down. At this point, we want to do our decoration. So for this area here, if you saw what I had, I did these interesting little line work type things. So how do we do that? Well, you've got a few different features here that I'm going to show you how to use. We've got a curved stitch direction, which is kind of fun. So let's start with that. So if I take this, which currently is a vector fill, and I'm going to start on the outside, left and right click around. And right now it's just a fill, and you can see it's got a curve to the stitch direction. Okay, so let's now go into the properties of that and do something else. All right, so I'm going to select that fill that we just created, double click on it, turn off the auto, and change this to decorative. All right, so decorative fills are they're fun. There's just, I like them a lot. So let's see, if I change the pattern to diamond, apply. All right, so that gives us, you know, diamonds through there. Now keep in mind, you've got these little, you've got these handles right here that you can move around to adjust how that pattern is relative to each other. So you can play with it to get the look a little bit different. All right, you can also change its sizing. So if you want to do something different on the size of those, you can play with those here. Anyway, you've got different options there. So these pattern fills are, like I said, a lot of fun. You can create your own, or there's a bunch built into the software. Now on top of that, you know, eggs are they're three, you know, they've got a sphere to them. So there's also under effects, these distortion effects. So we can do radial out, and this thing, I got a lot of blue in here, but see the shape I'm dragging around right now? That is the distortion to it. So you see, as I move that around, you can distort these so that it almost starts giving it that 3D egg look. Okay, and it's really personal preference. There's no right or wrong answer. What looks good to you is the right answer. You'll find all of us do things a little bit differently, and that's okay. That's our artistic expression, if you will. Okay. All right. The stitch direction has it, my line's going a little crooked, but I kind of like it, so I'm going to leave it. All right. So again, down here, we can do that same thing. So again, if I wanted a straight stitch direction, I can do that. Or I can do it insert a curved stitch direction. Like I said, the curved stitch direction just allows you to do different things. And again, I'm going to take the same one, go change it to a decorative, and let's do maybe the spin on that one. Yeah, it's cute. Okay, and again, I can do the same thing of giving it a distortion effect, radial out, just to give it more dimension. Okay, and it needs to move. Oops, wrong handle. There we go. That's better. Anyway, just keep playing with it. There, I like that. That's cute. Okay. All right, so another technique you have through here is, again, we can use those decoratives, or what about doing a trapunto type look through there? So again, I'm doing a curved stitch direction, and the reason I'm staying with these curved stitch directions is because it's an egg, it's rounded. Why not give it that dimensional look? So again, on this one, I added the curved stitch direction. I really don't want a solid fill through there. So instead of a solid fill, why don't we change it, leave it as a fill, make the density something bigger, turn off my underlays, and let's turn on trapunto. Trapunto will get rid of that travel stitch. Okay, so that's just a set of little lines through there that, again, can add some dimension to the vinyl, just to break it up and give it some patterned look to it. All right, now for this green stuff, how will we do those? Well, I think I would want those to be satin stitches. So we can either go and digitize them as columns, or they're already drawn as vectors, so why don't we use that? So I'm going to add stitch direction and see what we get. And it's doing it as fill, so let's go into the properties, change it over to satin, and notice, because of this, that's saying if any stitch gets bigger than 60 points, it's going to convert it from a satin stitch into a fill, because satin stitch, if you get really long pieces of thread, they're more prone to snagging, and snagging, eventually comes unraveled. So we don't want that. So, but I still would like a satin look to this. So what types of things can we do? Well, the length is too long, which is why it's making it into a fill. So why don't we add a curved splice to break this up some? Okay, so I'm going to do a curved splice. You could digitize this as two separate columns. That's another way. So you don't have to use this, and I'm just going to kind of split the difference, if you will, on this going across. All right, and that's a little better. My stitch directions are going a little wonky, so why don't we, basically, I go to the areas that I don't like and fix those stitch directions first, and just add stitch directions until it's more to my liking. That's not bad. That's cute. Okay, so if I deselect that, so you can see, now we've got kind of, it looks like two scallops on there. Now, you'll notice I've been going through this paying next to no attention to the connectors, the path, that sort of thing. Let's do that at the end. Right now I'm just trying to get the design elements in. All right, so here again, select the shape that you want to add the stitch directions to, add your stitch direction, and again, I like that curved splice, so let's do that again, just to break it up, although I still haven't changed this over to a satin stitch, so we still need to do that. Okay. All right. Oh, that's cute. I like it. I'm going to leave it like that. All right, let's make these the same color. All right, so we've got some decorations drawn. Okay, so, I assume you'll do whatever you'd like for them. So this is just to show you some new techniques of how to use these decoratives to get different patterns and some of the different kind of tools you have available to you. So once we have this, now let's get it set up so we can actually run this like a design. So what do we need? We've got our placement stitch, so that's good. Now I've got these two, and I'm going to make those the same color by merging them. And I don't want to trim. So how do we, first, let's see, I'll show you there's a trim by doing update auto tie and trims, and you'll see a trim appeared. So if I look at it, if I click right after the trim, everything you need to be able to get rid of it is on the screen now. The propeller shows you where the previous element, in this case number 24, ended. And my start stop right here, the green circle and red X, is where I am now. There's a trim because the propeller is nowhere near the green circle. All right, so what do we do? Well, first off, let's move the end point over here. Okay, so that's, why didn't it move? Well, let's see. It's not going to because of this decorative. That's okay. So what we'll do is from here, I'm going to start there. I'm going to trace out just with a walk input. Now I'm on the edge, which is going to get covered up in a minute anyway with the satin stitch. Walk my way down. There we go. Okay. So because I went over half this, what I'll probably do is after it does something else, I'll want to make sure I get another line in here just so it doesn't look, so it looks uniform and it doesn't look heavier one side than the other. All right, and let's put that in the right spot. So we're going from here to there to there. So if we update our trims, oh, that's still not right. That's all right. So properties, tie-ins. I have my properties are set up really small. There. Okay. So we've got these drawn. That's one color. Then again, my two little guys here. 1, 2, and there's the trapunto. We can do those all the same colors. Why not? So how would we want them to go? I'd probably do that trapunto fill first. So starting and ending there. Do this one. It's starting at the propeller, ending over here. Walk down to get to my next shape. And we're going to start that one there, and it's ending wherever it feels like. That's fine. So update the trim, and you'll see no trims are there. So again, now we've minimized our trims through here. So each color just will sew. The last thing we want to do is a satin around my egg. So if I select the egg, hold the shift key and click on the single line input. That's your hotkey. I'm going to change the width to 30 again. Yeah. Okay. And that's after this. It's going to be a different color anyway, so we'll do like that. And our last step is going to be copy and paste this first one and change it from a, so it's at the end, from a walk normal to a bean. Oops, 25 or so. There. All right, so now we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 color designs. If I delete the stuff I did earlier, you'll see it. So there's your file. First one holds the vinyl down, then you do all your decorations, and then we do our border to secure the back on. So you can see they're pretty quick to do. They're really versatile. You can do any shape you want, you know, even if you want to hang names off these. So instead of, this is Easter, but let's say you just want a name or something like that. Or for fun, I drew some art that you guys can play with of a whole bunch of different fobs. So, you know, sports ones. I have a bunch of boys as children, so you got that. Different eggs, decorate it to how you see fit. Or I started working on this one just to show another way to do that decorative fill. You can see it's got a decorative with the just squares pattern, and it's got a curved stitch direction on there, and then it has that distortion effect for radial out to give it that 3D look where it almost makes it look like it's rounded. Okay. Let's see, questions. Need a video on creating your, oh, cool. Can you use 651, or does it have to be marine vinyl? 651 is too thin. That stuff, 651 is the, for key fobs, you wouldn't want to do that. You need some fabric or something that has body to it. So if you're going to use 651, actually you can't use that. I would use HTV if you want to use a vinyl. So take the HTV, bond it to a twill or something like that, something that's heavy, and then use that. That seems like a lot more work to me than just using straight marine vinyl or something that's heavier. You can't, if you're going to use an HTV bonded to a twill and you don't want it to be super floppy, you know, add a few layers of cutaway or even buckram in between it to hold that, and so that it actually holds its shape. All right. What other questions do we have? Lots of, it's hard for me to see them. Oh well. Yeah, I wouldn't use 651. It's just too thin. Anyway, so there's a lot of things you can play with. Remember, we've got our walks and our single line centers for the borders. The walk can be used to both hold the material or to actually secure the backing. When you're putting things back on the machine, make sure your vinyl didn't fold under and you actually had it pinned so you don't end up having to scrap it. You also want to use pins. Use something to secure under the hoop other than your hands. I've sewn my hand. It's not pleasant. Don't do it. There's no reason to, and it's not pleasant. Don't do it. Don't get in that habit. Use pins. Use different aids to hold things under the machine so that you're never reaching in there while it's moving. Okay. A little tip when you're playing with, where's my PDF again? There it is. So when you're laying the fabric down like this and it's starting to do its first tack down stitch, sometimes it wants to jump around. If you take some chopsticks and sharpen them, just in a, wooden chopsticks from the takeout, sharpen them in a pencil sharpener, and then use those as your fingers reaching into the machine so that you don't end up having to reach in and hold it with your hand. Or better yet, just pin it and do a trace, make sure that it's not going to sew through your pins, and move along. Okay. All right. Well, that's what I had. Hope everyone has a great holiday season, and happy Easter. Have fun with these. They're fun. Excited. And there's a lot of artwork. You can type in questions. I'll try to review them throughout the day, answer them. So, different art for you to play with. All right. Hope this was helpful. Talk to you next time.